Fred was born in 1944 in O'Neill, Nebraska, and immediately began attending the Assemblies of God Church there.
My father was a farmer. He was a graduate of the University of Nebraska. He was also a Gideon. He was a church board member, and he was very actively involved in church, and they saw to it the family was in church every time the church doors were open. My mom was a Christian lady filled with the Holy Spirit, and she was used by God many times as a message in tongues interpretation, and she and my dad were together on seeing that we had a Christian education, and Christian Sunday school was a priority as well as church. And she led, I think she was the one that led me to the Lord back before I was old enough to know what day it was. I was about 6 years old at the time.
After graduating from the O'Neill High School, Fred went to Evangel College in Springfield, Missouri to study mathematics, but his health caused him to have to return home after just one short year. While he was home, he felt a call from God to enter the ministry, and he went back to Springfield, Missouri, but this time to Central Bible Institute, where he graduated with a degree in biblical studies and also met a young lady by the name of Sandra Banks. Fred and Sandy were married in 1969, and together they moved to Lyons, Nebraska, where they pastored the church there from 1969 to 1971. From there, they went to the Assembly of God Church in Pender, Nebraska, where they stayed until 1976. But then God smiled on them and called them to the Iowa district, where they moved to Eldora, Iowa, where they pastored from 1976 until their retirement. It was in Eldora, Iowa, that they raised their 5 children, Yvonne, David, Sean, Shannon, and Mark, along with 11 foster children. But the thing most of us remember about Fred and Sandy Rosenkrans are the book tables that they had at every district event.
It started out when we had a kids' crusade in the church, and the kids evangelist that we had told me that we could get a Bible up at Riverside Book and Bible. And then when I saw that you could get Bibles for 80% discount, I brought back a few up and put them on a table in the back of the church. We were getting ready to come down to family camp, so I called Brother Ulstead and said, would it be all right if I would bring the ones I have down here and sell them at family camp? And he was all for that. And then when we got to family camp, they were going so good that I went back up and bought what they had left, another 18 or so. And when I left family camp that year, the only one I had left was the one that I had decided to keep for myself. And then shortly after we had the Thompsons at the campgrounds, I had intended to get out, but people kept wanting the Bibles, and it was interesting to watch people go through the tables. They would have a great time, and they wanted to be first to get there. And I learned that you better have a sheet to cover the table, because they weren't going to stop looking at them when the service started.
In 2001, the Eldora Assemblies of God, under the leadership of Fred and Sandy, purchased a new building from the Christian Church in Eldora. They pastored this church together until they retired after 32 years in 2008. They ran the bookstore from 2008 until 2015, when they moved to Springfield, Missouri, where they faithfully attend Battlefield Assemblies of God. Fred and Sandy, we are so thankful for all that God has used you for to bless the Iowa district and the Nebraska district, and we sure do thank you for the great discounts on books and Bibles that you've given us over the years.